what does the hidden windshield wipers on this Corvette not have in common with subscribing to the Audrain Museum Network?
Well, the subscribe button's not hidden, it's right there.
Right
Press
there.
that button for more content like this.
Do it, it's easy. Hi, and welcome back to our exhibition, More Than Just American Muscle, at the Audrain Automobile Museum here in Newport, Rhode Island. In today's segment on the Audrain Museum Network, we're going to be looking at two very American muscle cars, but are they muscle cars? To help explain that story, I'm joined once again by Steve Marsoci of our video team. Hey Steve.
Hi, Donald.
And I know that this is very much your wheelhouse. You're an American car guy through and through, although all of us have tastes which are much wider than most people imagine. But I will tell you something, because everybody thinks of me as an Italian car guy. The 1967 Corvette is one of my favorite cars on the planet. I think it's an incredibly beautiful car. They got the design right, the performance is right at this point, so there's little to argue with me, especially if you get a wonderful Goodwood green example like this in the tan interior. Like, hey, does it get much better than that?
No, it's the best combo.
In our conversation about what makes a muscle car, the Corvette, everybody knows, is America's sports car. Since the field was left open by the movement of the Thunderbird to a four-seater personal luxury car, Chevrolet persevered with the Corvette, and as I said before, at this point they got it exactly right. But it's here in a muscle car show.
Well, 427 cubic inches is what I have to say. How can you deny something that big under the hood? It's made to blow the tires off and go around corners sideways, and the independent rear suspension help, but at the end of the day, it has muscle car qualities.
You brought up something which is really, really, really important, and Zora Arkus-Duntov, the father of the Corvette, I think was very mindful in working with the GM management to position the Corvette in two very specific places in 1967. The 327-360 was very much the well-balanced sports car, and for those who wanted just a little more power under their right foot, you had the big block.
Yeah, I think this was his dream when he was doing it. He wanted to go further with the Grand Sport, despite GM telling him no. But this was a pretty good compromise.
And when people think about 1967 and performance, you realize that this, along with the Jaguar E-Type, are genuine 150-mile-per-hour cars.
Yes.
And to your earlier point about the independent rear suspension, this was a muscle car certainly, but it's a muscle car that was meant to handle as well. So again, further blurring those lines. But one of the other things that's very interesting, that this exhibition itself actually tells an interesting story of. Comparing the two, sort of the sports car Corvette and the muscle car Corvette, thinking about the 327, 350 car, 360 car, weighed about 3,036 pounds. This one was about 300 pounds heavier. Another car in the exhibition, which we'll see in a little bit, is the Bizzarrini 5300 Strada, the 327, 360, and weighing 2,800 pounds. So you get lots of different flavors of Corvette here. And speaking of flavors of Corvette, we're going to see the next generation Corvette in probably one of its ideal flavors. Let's take a look at an LT1.
Let's check it out.
Now, Steve, of course, every Corvette is white, red, or yellow. We've got two green Corvettes in our show because we like green Corvettes.
I like green Corvettes too. I had a white one, but the green is something.
Ah, so you had a Corvette.
I had a Corvette. I had an 87 C4.
When'd you get it?
From my uncle when I was 14. He passed it down to me.
14 years old?
Yes.
Okay, and
yes.
When did you get your driver's license?
At 17.
At 17,
yeah.
Okay, so there's a lot of wishful dreaming and lots of work on the car before you could drive it.
There was, yeah. He's the reason I'm into cars. I grew up with him working on cars and headlights and taillights, and he really fostered my love for automobiles and Corvettes.
Well, it's a really interesting thing. This car, this 1971 Corvette LT1, I love the shape of this car. I said already that the 67 is my absolute favorite Corvette. But in the exhibition that we had here in the Audrain Automobile Museum a number of years ago, highlighting GM design, we had an incredible number of GM concept cars here, one of which, in this very spot in the gallery, was the Mako shark.
Yes.
The inspiration for this design. And it was such a dramatic departure from the Stingray that had come before, but still very evolutionary. You could tell these cars were Corvettes. I think that's also a very important part of the success story for Corvettes. They're cars that really sort of speak to people emotionally because we look at a Corvette and we know what a Corvette is, especially in this period.
Yeah, absolutely. The Makos had more dramatic lines that they had to refine for the road cars. But I mean, it's still pretty apparent in the fenders.
The fenders and the incredibly sharp tapered nose and that great cam tail is absolutely wonderful. And of course, this is also an interesting time for Corvette history because they had three models. They had a full coupe, the convertible, and this one with the T-tops.
Yes.
So no matter what your flavor was, you could indulge it. And I know that for some people, the T-top cars have a slightly dodgy reputation because of rattles and leaks. But I think they do offer a really good option between people that want open motoring, because once you take those tops off, you are effectively in a convertible. And something which is a little more closed because you can't have a conversation in a Corvette convertible with the top up. It's just not happening.
No, it's a great experience and it's a great look. It adds a little bit of detail to the roof that you don't get with the other ones.
And it's also a very interesting thing. This is a 4-speed manual model, which is the most desirable, of course. And we're also seeing in this moment that gradual chipping away at performance, which you are fortunately too young to remember, but I remember quite well, where we began to think, oh gosh, we're going to lose it. It's never going to be like it was in the 60s. And this engine, the year before, in 1970, put out 30 more horsepower than it did in this year, in 1971.
Yeah.
So things were starting to get to that point where I think that your car had 280 horsepower? Or
240.
240.
240.
So after that, actually even got worse. Got down to
It got worse, yeah.
185.
The torque numbers were still there, though. 345 for torque.
And that's a very interesting thing because people talk about what makes a muscle car, and this is certainly a big engine. And even though the horsepower numbers were being reduced, your point is very well taken because what is it that we feel when we put our foot down the throttle? It's torque, not horsepower.
Yep.
So it's a very interesting thing that this car certainly is a follow-on to that 427 that we saw in terms of the attitude. The Corvettes are becoming very sort of big-chested cars, not the sort of delicate, if you're going to call it Corvette delicate, but that sort of Sebring Corvette SS kind of feeling to the more, I'm going to take the road by storm feeling that Corvette still possessed to this day.
Absolutely, yeah. Torque is a big thing no matter what year or model of the Corvette.
And I also have to say that, I'm big on design. I think the design of this car, especially now, it still has a lot of great details, which are absolutely wonderful. I love these wheels. The rally wheels are absolutely one of my favorites in GM design. The extractor vents on the fender, which have a wonderful line. And of course, this is also the time when they first started doing the hidden windshield wipers for better airflow and aerodynamics. It's such a great, elegant touch that I think really also helps sort of finish off the car in a really great way.
It has that sleek concept feel to it.
Yeah, exactly. And so, I think that just about everybody who comes here to the galleries, our visitor guests, and everyone watching here on the Audrain Museum Network would agree this is definitely a Corvette muscle car.
Absolutely.
Now, of course, we could talk about the L88s, but that's another story for another time. Thanks for joining me, Steve.
Thank you for having me. Appreciate it.
Keep watching here in the Audrain Museum Network for other highlights video from this exhibition, More Than Just American Muscle. Thanks for joining us.